Hello guys, welcome back. Now today I'm going to be talking about Philipp Kurashev and if he's the World Junior MVP so far. Now Philipp Kurashev has been a nice surprise so far in these World Junior Championships, so with his fantastic play, does he really deserve to be considered as the World Junior Championships MVP? Now, we've seen some definite surprises so far in this World Junior Championships, but there's been no other player that has been as surprising and impactful than Swiss player Kurashev. Now, Kurashev is a center at age 19 on Team Switzerland in this year's World Junior Championships. He was drafted 120th overall in last year's 2018 NHL draft by the Chicago Blackhawks. And when you look at how far down he was drafted and how well he's playing with the World Juniors, it's kind of baffling there was difference between where he was drafted and where he probably should have been drafted. Now, so far this year in the QMJHL with the Quebec Ramparts, he's been an absolute beast. In 33 games so far, he's put up 18 goals, he's had 25 assists for 43 points, and that's not bad, especially for a player that was drafted in the 4th round. He's been really improving himself, and so far in the QMJHL, he's just been straight amazing. Now, those QMJHL stats are certainly very fantastic, but when you see what he's been doing so far with Team Switzerland in the World Junior Championships, those stats are pretty much blown out of the water, and so far, he's been an absolute stud in these World Juniors, and you couldn't ask for much else from him. Now, so far with Team Switzerland in these World Junior Championships, Kurashev has played 3 games in the preliminary games, and he has been straight phenomenal. In those 3 games, he's had 5 goals and 1 assist for, of course, 6 points, and that was after a hat trick against Denmark. And while Denmark is not the strongest team, some of those goals were just straight beautiful, and you gotta hand it to him. He's had a brilliant tournament so far. Now, with Kurashev and his 6 points and 5 goals so far in the World Juniors, that is impressive by itself. But when you factor in that Switzerland has scored 7 goals in the entire tournament, that's also very impressive. With Kurashev, he has had 6 points in 7 Switzerland goals. And when you look at Switzerland's offense, they have some decent guys like Eggenberger and some other decent forwards. But when it comes down to it, Kurashev has been carrying the load and has been practically the only reason why Switzerland has done okay so far in the World Juniors. Now, when it comes to his 5 goals in the tournament, that is currently tied for #1 in the entire World Junior Championships, tied with Maxime Comtois of Team Canada, and Kurashev being #1, or at least being tied for #1, is certainly that Team Switzerland, and Kurashev should be proud of, because with Team Switzerland, they're not the best team on paper, they're not a terrible team, but offensively, they got some decent pieces, but Kurashev has been the guy to really lead them, and has been one of the main factors as to why Switzerland has not been all that bad in this tournament, but Kurashev has been putting the team on his back practically, and offensively, he's been the guy to show up every single game. And when you look at the goals that he's scored, not really any of, or I wouldn't say any of them are really all that fluky. A lot of them have been good on his part when it comes to hockey IQ, knowing where to be on the ice, and of course, having a brilliant shot. We've seen that a couple of times so far in this tournament, where he was in pretty long range, but he ended up sniping at top shelf or somewhere. And with Kurashev, I've been pretty impressed with his performance so far. And while I haven't seen too much of Switzerland's games, the games that I have been able to see, Kurashev has been a big highlight, and the best player on the team, I would say, by far, throughout the whole tournament so far. And for me, going into this tournament, Kurashev wasn't really on my radar of players that would be #1 for the goals. I would have thought guys like, again, Maxime Comtois would be up there, Morgan Frost, guys like on Team USA, like Wallstrom and Poling. But when it comes down to it, he's been a big surprise for me because I didn't really scout too much of Switzerland's team, because besides guys like Eggenberger, I really didn't expect much from them. But Kurashev has really emerged from there and has really gained my respect for how well he's been able to play against some pretty solid opponents. And again, for the offense that he's been able to produce on Team Switzerland, it really goes to show how well he's been playing. I mean, 5 goals in 3 games in the World Juniors is great on any team, whether you're on Team Canada or Team Denmark. But with Switzerland, they're not an offensive powerhouse like some other teams are. So it makes it even more impressive what Kurashev has been able to do, especially offensively and goals-wise. He's just been straight a monster so far, and on Team Switzerland, not the greatest offensive team, he's been able to carry them on his back and play as well as he has. And if you said going into this tournament that he would be playing above the likes of guys like Comtois and Morgan Frost, I would have thought you're absolutely crazy, because before this tournament, I barely even heard of a guy like Philipp Kurashev. But again, he's gaining my respect for how well he's been able to compete with some of those guys, points-wise, and in these games, he's been able to take advantage of the opportunities that he's had. And of course, with him playing so well, he's been getting a lot of opportunities and creating that for himself in Switzerland's games. And even with Switzerland, they have some offensive firepower, but really when it comes down to it, Kurashev is the anchor and the guy on that offense, and he's been leading them so far to a pretty decent record, and one that I think Switzerland would take any day. Now, currently, Switzerland is, of course, in Group A in these World Juniors. They are currently number 3 in Group A. And while it is a pretty weak group compared to Group B, I would say Group A is not bad at all, and Switzerland has been able to make a name for themselves so far in this World Juniors, and I think like Kurashev is the main reason why they've been pretty solid so far in this tournament. And Kurashev, with those 5 goals in 3 games, with those 6 points in 3 games, I think he's been the main reason why Switzerland has been able to roll pretty solidly offensively, and why they've been able to get wins pretty easily, and I feel like Kurashev has been the reason why, which I think makes a case for his possible MVP contention. Now, with Switzerland, they played 3 preliminary games so far, which means that they have 1 left to go versus Russia, and then they will probably end up playing in the quarterfinals. Most likely not the semifinals. They'll probably get beaten before then, but the quarterfinals is likely what will happen, and Switzerland will likely get 2 more games in these World Juniors, and that'll be 2 more opportunities for Kurashev to show his talents and to show why he's been so good this season in the QMJHL and the World Juniors, and honestly, 2 more opportunities for him to showcase his talents as to why he might be an MVP. Now, for me, he's convinced me to properly root for him. So far with Switzerland, he's been the main reason to watch Switzerland so far in this tournament. He's been very, very solid, and he's been one of the reasons why I've been tuning into Switzerland the last couple of games to see how they played, because honestly, Kurashev has been a pretty fun player to watch, and of course, the skills that he shows on the ice have been bar none, especially when it comes to Switzerland forwards. Now, for me personally, I think he has to be hands down the Switzerland MVP for their team so far in the World Juniors. He's been straight fantastic, and I think when it comes to the MVP of Switzerland, there's no question. It has to be Philipp Kurashev for how well he's played so far. And with Kurashev's performance so far in the World Juniors, I think there is no doubt that he is Switzerland's MVP so far this tournament, but that also begs the question, of course, the real question of this video, is he the MVP of the entire tournament so far? And I think, honestly, that is a very interesting question, especially with how well Kurashev has played, and he's really put himself in that conversation. Now, for me right now, if I had to pick 3 guys to be in that MVP conversation, I would have, of course, Kurashev in that conversation, in that top 3. I would have Morgan Frost, and I would also have Poling of Team USA in that top 3. And those are 3 fantastic players, and they both honestly have arguments as to why they would be MVP. When it comes down to the stats, Ryan Poling and Morgan Frost, I think, have 1 more point than Kurashev. But when it comes to the stats and the stats he's putting up on Team Switzerland, I don't think you can deny how good Kurashev has been in this tournament so far. And of course, with Team Switzerland, they're not an offensive juggernaut like a Team USA is, like a Team Canada is. They're a lot lower in that respect, but Kurashev has been able to put up the points and put up the goals, being number 1 in goals and being number 3 in points overall. So for me, a guy like Morgan Frost can also rely on teammates to get it done. A guy like Ryan Poling can rely on other teammates to get it done and to get points. But when it comes to Kurashev and the play that he's had so far, Team Switzerland, I mean, Team Switzerland has Eggenberger. He's a solid player. But when it comes to Switzerland, they don't have a lot of firepower, and Kurashev has been able to get it done night after night and continue to get points in a team that really isn't offensively oriented, at least in my opinion. So for me, the team that he plays on has to factor in. Of course, the points alone are pretty impressive for what he's been able to do. But with Team Switzerland, again, they're still a decent team, but they're not an offensive powerhouse. And Kurashev has been able to make do with that, has been able to get points without the help of other players involved. And Eggenberger certainly is a solid player for Team Switzerland, but Kurashev has been the star on that team, and he continues to be one of the most impressive players so far in this World Juniors. And while he might not be the MVP in some people's minds, I think to me, he has to be in that conversation. So for me right now, if I had to really assign an MVP so far this tournament, while Ryan Poehling is certainly tempting after that hat-trick against Team Sweden, for me right now, when it comes to Kurashev and the team that he has around him, I will pick Kurashev as my MVP so far. Now that could definitely change. Again, we're only 3 games into it. We're not even into the tournament yet, so that could definitely change. But 3 games in the preliminary games, it is pretty early to assign a guy, but I think Kurashev has definitely won me over with, again, how well he's played on Team Switzerland. And I could say 100% that Morgan Frost and Ryan Poehling and other guys will have more points when it's all said and done for the games that Kurashev has played and the experience and the overall game that he has showed so far in the World Juniors has been pretty impressive to me and has impressed me a lot to a point where, again, to me, he is my MVP, even if he might not get as many points or as many games played as some other players when it's all said and done. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comment section down below. So let me know your thoughts on Kurashev, his stats so far, and of course with Team Switzerland. Would you consider him the MVP so far, or would you pick another player? But if you guys want some more Grav videos, you can click on this playlist to watch all of my World Junior videos. But that is going for you guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on Kurashev and his performance so far in the World Juniors. And I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.